In any case, Holly, welcome. I would be remiss to not start this evening by saying it's a troubling time for me, and I think many of us living in Minnesota.
Yes.
And I suppose I've been reflecting on the opportunity of living in Minnesota right now. To me, seems at least I'll just speak frankly without a script as a white-skinned person, to talk fairly early and often about the reality of how do we find a fair time and place for us all to be living in this world? Because when I get pulled over, when I get pulled over by authorities, it's not pleasant for me, but I don't fear the same things that that my friends, particularly my male friends with black skin, fear. And so I just want to acknowledge right now, as a school, we're not here to do pastoral care. And we do, though, have a mission and vision of giving students tools to change the world. And I think it's a difficult time right now, both to imagine it actually changing. And I think it's also an urgent time to require our imaginations to see how can it change for the better. Right. So I don't like to live on hope. I don't like to sell to our students the idea that we can hope things will be better in the future. We gotta work right now to make today and tomorrow different than the heartbreaking parts of yesterday and this past year.
That's right. I agree.
So it's I think also a common impulse to want to have a solution. And I think this is more a situation in which we're going to have to attentively and with good intention really, I think, pay care and review and reflection on our own actions and participation each day on, did I act in a way today that didn't acknowledge the reality of other people? At least as a white-skinned person, I got to say this. And how can I change that? And so, you know, I can speak for myself, and as a school, I suppose what I see is we were founded as a place to give students the opportunity to speak up and have critical discussions with each other and struggle with things together. And so that's something that I see as we've become a more publicly successful place. Sometimes, especially among student activists or students who don't identify as white, sometimes I see a self-consciousness about, is the school getting credit by sort of using me as an example of being an activist? Like, what if I feel like, you know, what if I feel like the school is not fair? And so I just want to identify here. I think I've said to many people coming in, and I'll say it again, maybe one last time, or a couple more times this spring, we're not a bubble that keeps the bad stuff and the rest of the world out. And I wish we had the magic formula to do that. But as a part of society, we are subject to all the things that are happening in the current of society. So I think I've said, you know, we're much less like a wetsuit than we are like, you know, a bag of tea in the river. It's flowing through. Like, we can do what we do inside our bag, but everything happening inside is going to flow through it. So how we respond is going to be the important aspect.
Right. We need to take care of each other and be kind. Having worked in a police station myself, I have lots of feelings. I have lots and lots of feelings. And I just need to remember to ground myself and be kind. People are struggling right now. And just because I'm concerned, you know, I still need to assist where I can.
Yeah, and so that's, I appreciate, well, Holly, I'll just let everyone know, for anyone thinking that we could script these beforehand, we don't have the time, capacity, or resources. There's no production team. You're looking at the entire crew right now. So where you say assist where you can, that's where I do see really working myself as a parent and as an individual to be acting to change the way things work for me and the way they work, say, for my own family and kids, by having conversations that are active about the news right now, that are active about our old neighborhood and our neighbors and the people we care about, and that are active about, whether it's participating in material support for people who are living in Brooklyn Center or living near Lake Street where local businesses were damaged, or whether it's, listening to folks, listening to folks who have opinions different than you right now. I think speaking up is one way to assist. Acting is another way to assist. And, I think, again, I would advocate for people who are part of Great River School to recognize that the school is an opportunity every year and is not any stronger than any individual who can step forward and say, here's what I need to see from the school this year. Here's how I can contribute. And so, as I know we have an incoming head of school who's beyond competent in so many ways, and I know we'll carry on this conversation also. But I also look forward to people not waiting for a leader to step up and say things, but in fact to see that, in my experience, the most successful leadership at Great River School has taken responsibility for where we can do better, and then given the opportunity for other voices to speak up, whether they're student voices or whether they're folks who want to, build more community through the school. So,
right. I appreciate that other voices different from white voices, raising two children, multiracial children. I know it can be very difficult, and only the more reason to be kind and try to understand each other.
Right. So with that said,
Yes.
I will go over regular talking points that we do for public health news. I will also attempt to screen share. And if it crashes, Holly, I'll join right back in. So nobody be alarmed if I go away. I do have bandwidth restrictions. And then we are answering questions. And so if you're here live, you can put those questions in the Q&A down at the bottom of the screen. And we will answer also, I think, just a couple regular questions that have come in this past week. And so those of you who are here live, we don't have a question live yet, but I'll just give you this prompt right now for if you do have a question, please share that question in the Q&A. Now, Holly, I'm screen sharing. Hopefully you can see a document here that just got bigger and readable. True?
It did, yes, thank you.
Okay, well, the bandwidth is working well. So folks, what I want to do is just show just succinctly that what we are doing is continuing to use this formula as part of how we're making decisions about our school model. And the reason I want to highlight this to start tonight is because we are looking at both the state data that's been released for the 2-week average, but knowing that currently, as we do what we can to offer both in-person learning for elementary students, which is happening now for both lower and upper elementary, 1st through 6th grade students can opt into in-person learning. One of the start dates was yesterday. The next start date, I believe, is May 10th. And so you can opt into that all the way up until May 3rd. If you need to figure out where to do that, elementary families will be getting another email this week reminding you where. Also, however, you can email us at office@greatriverschool.org, and we're doing our best to keep up with many emails, especially in the past few days, to respond to folks. But you'll be able to opt in again if you haven't opted in yet and you want to for elementary learning. But as we also look at creating as many in-person opportunities for adolescents as we can. For instance, tomorrow I will be attending a community meeting that will be in person at McMurray Fields. I'm really excited about that, really seeing so many students that I haven't seen in person for over a year will be exciting for me. I'll be the one who's really just flagging people in, and I'm like an usher. So I'll do what I can to wear a shiny vest. We are still keeping an eye, though, on how case counts in this new variant that's in the news is affecting those case counts. However, it's not the only piece of data we're looking at. We're also looking at the positivity rate. We're looking at then the daily case count. So not just the 2-week average from 2 weeks ago, but we're going in every day now, counting the number of cases reported to the Department of Health per county, doing our own math. So we have a leading indicator not a lagging indicator. We want the daily indicator of what the case counts are. And if we find that there's changed guidance about variants and schools, then we will also consider how to best mitigate that that changing landscape. So I just want to say this is what we're actually using. We're using total number of cases for the day to get a daily case count. So we're doing that on math. Now, as I scroll down here, how do you see case rate per 10,000? So as we look at this now as a lagging indicator, the most recently reported average does show that over the past 3 reporting periods, we do have growth from week to week in terms of total case rate per 10,000 people. That has evened out in some of the counties, some of these local counties. So we're keeping an eye on the average. But then we're also, again, looking at the average case positivity rate. And again, if this hits 10%, we would have an automatic review period and communicate out if we're going to change anything about our learning models. So just to let people know that while we're in-person for elementary, we're working on in-person options as much as possible for adolescent students. As we look at these items, we want to make sure to communicate clearly that we keep our eye on these, and we're not just taking it for granted that the rest of the year is told. You know, as you've seen in the news, Minnesota and the Midwest are in the news for having rising case rates, and so we're watching those. We also know, however, that as we use, and I'll just go to one more slideshow where I think Wendy Fisher showed a few weeks ago this slideshow, but I'm just going to review a couple of those items for folks who might be watching. But I want to close out by saying of the last item by saying that as we watch those current developments, we also know that local testing gives us the best idea of if there's the presence of COVID in our community. Many of our staff have been able to engage in vaccines, and I know many adults now can engage in getting vaccine access also. Many ages 16 and up can also do that. However, the news headlines, which I think are great for a hopeful next step, people should recognize and realize that we have not used that as a requirement for staff. We can't, and that what we're doing is also watching when there is a positive COVID case at school, are mitigation efforts working to prevent the spread of it? And what we've seen is that that is true. And so as we see rising case rates, we're really keeping an eye on if there are any positive cases. So my advocacy here, 15 minutes in tonight, was what I'm going to echo the rest of the year is please get tested often. I can't remember the last time living in the state of Minnesota, you could go get a free medical test for something. This is a test, though, that not only gives you information, but helps keep our school as informed as possible about how to make good decisions. And so please get tested often, especially if you're an adolescent student who's participating in in-person events or at the SRC or any extracurriculars. So I know, for instance, Ultimate Frisbee, varsity spring sports, gatherings of adolescent groups. We want all of those folks to be testing really, frankly, as often as possible, and to let us know if you have a positive test, because that will be a really key piece of information for us to make decisions. And so, you know, we're living at a fraught time that is frankly somewhat chaotic, because there isn't a system outside of your action that can give us that information I'm looking for. And so I'm saying, please go get tested. I'm asking our staff to get tested as often as possible so that we have any kind of early indicator if there is the presence of COVID virus at our school. And so thinking about our school as a small town of about, 400 people right now on campus every day, we're using mitigation efforts to really keep everybody as secure as possible. And if there is a case at our school, making sure that it is contained, limited, and we know how to do that. So we've got those plans in place. I wanted to just reiterate that in terms of adolescent learning models, Holly, is this legible?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Oh, we are at a fit. Okay, great. I just wanted to identify that we have the process posted on our website. I know this was presented before, but we have a very polarized community in terms of what folks think we should do. I'll show that in a moment, but The summary is that virtual learning is going to be the way we continue to deliver the primary academic instruction for adolescents. I think folks know this, but I just want to reiterate it. We sent a message out. And secondly, we also know that even for folks who prefer to stay in virtual learning, folks are asking for and would like additional times for social connection, for social emotional learning, and even for academic meetups. And so when possible for academic meetups, teachers are asking their classes who will show up in person for this lesson. And sometimes we're finding very few students are saying I'll show up in person. Sometimes we're finding people are really interested. However, we are doing regular in-person and working on in-person options ongoing throughout the spring. But what I want to reiterate is that we have a school resource center where we have invested in very capable, frankly experienced, some are alumni, employees who are on site with adolescents. And if you're a student who even tried the SRC before and didn't care for it, coming on site, even planning, say, with your peers who also want to have an in-person experience 5 days a week or 2 days a week or even 1 day a week, you can coordinate among yourselves how to attend and when to attend. And we are looking to support students getting in the habit of coming to campus, because we know from feedback that the best way to support academic success for students, especially for students who need it the most, is offer the in-person option at school and keep steady with what we've started to do and are doing for everyone through the end of the year. So just to give a reminder of the polarization I'm talking about in terms of family answers about in-person learning versus distance learning, I just want to show here, and Holly, can you see? I'm going to present. Is that a little better?
Yeah, it should be a little larger.
4, 3,
Yay!
2. Okay, great. So
Beautiful.
I just want to show here a small picture, and then I'm going to show another slide in a moment. But in dark blue and lighter blue here are folks who completely agree in dark blue or agree in light blue about in-person learning on the left and distance learning on the right. And then consequently, or on the other side of the opinion scale, dark red is completely disagree and light red is disagree about this. And I think an honest question that I would ask if I didn't see this from the inside is, why did you ask it this way? And what I want to identify is we learned a lot from our elementary process back in December and January, and that we also learned that people have, I think, complex opinions about both learning models, and we wanted to give an opportunity for people to express those. I would note that these are not mirror image survey results, right? The two pie charts don't look the same. So people who say agreed that there are some people who in fact agreed that distance learning is the best model for their student right now, but completely agreed that in-person model is the best. And so those people are okay with either. They might feel a little stronger about another. And so that I think is one indicator of the complex situation we're in. I do want to point out that in terms of asking about in-person learning, the people who agree about in-person learning clearly feel clearer about agreeing on it. If you agree in-person learning is a good model, then you say yes. Over here on the distance learning part, I think the word distance learning, the experience of it over the past year, is a polarizing experience. And so you can see that in the answers, but an equal number of people feeling strongly yes or strongly no, or feeling yes or no. And then this is a surprising result for me, some people neutral. So as I look at these, just as a reminder, this may have been changing even over the last couple weeks, right, since we processed and got this information back. I would expect it to change in an ongoing way through the rest of the year and into the summer and fall. As far as I know right now, the state is encouraging our school and all schools to plan for in-person instruction in the fall. And as we proceed through doing that and communicating with you all in the spring, I just want to identify that we will continue to ask for feedback and continue to do our best to meet the disparate and sometimes polarized needs of students and families. I do want to show something that I think was shown before, but this disaggregated data about distance learning and in-person learning. So we broke the demographics down between 3 different demographic groups, one being all families who answered, a second demographic group being folks who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and a third separate group being folks who identify as qualifying for free and reduced lunch. And so as we look at those demographics, I want to identify that, again, around distance learning, you see a pretty balanced polarized opinion. However, we see a larger number of folks who identify as qualifying for free and reduced lunch really disagreeing that distance learning is working for them. And then secondly, this is the in-person learning graph that I've just moved to. What we can see here is that actually more folks feel stronger about yes for in-person learning. And when we disaggregate the data, you've got over 50% of both BIPOC families and then separately the free and reduced lunch families saying yes, we would like this model, and fewer of those disaggregated groups saying that they disagree about in-person learning. So where does that leave us? Where that leaves us is, like I said in the first slide, offering options that are meaningful. And so what I've highlighted here, again, students and families expressing a need for community, putting our energy into solutions for challenges that arise the most. And really what we're doing internally is focusing on delivering the best educational model for stability, and then also the best tools to address the problems we see. So the challenges we're seeing are that some folks do need in person. So we have assembled a way to deliver that. We have guides who are sometimes coming in to work with those students, and we have a permanent staff of SRC staff through the rest of the year this year that are working with those students too. So even if you've tried it and hasn't worked before, please consider it as an adolescent student. And for those of you participating in an elementary program, all signs point to success for these first 2 days back since the break. And I just want to thank elementary families and students also for adhering to our exposure guidelines. So if you've traveled or you saw groups, for getting tests and following the quarantine protocol. And you know, polarizing times are difficult times to disagree and still stay together. And that's what I see on the whole our community doing. So let's see, we got a chat, and I can answer the chat, and then we'll just answer a couple of questions, and if we're done, we'll wrap a little early. So I see a question here: what are the transportation choices for adolescent students going to the school resource center? So there's a couple. Primarily though, what I see people doing is getting dropped off at different times that work for their family. However, we do have bus cards available for Metro Transit as we normally do. In rare but sometimes happening occurrences, we will find a spot for an adolescent student to get on our yellow school bus. We do have satellite stops around the city, and so that's something that is rare and not available for most, but in certain cases that has worked. So we still do have transportation, though we are providing Metro Transit tickets at no cost to you for you to take the city bus. So let us know, though, if transportation is what's holding you back from participating in that program. Reach out, please. Either phone call us or send us an email office@greatriverschool.org. I think there was a question too. I saw a question, Holly, that didn't come directly, but about Ultimate Frisbee.
Yes.
Ultimate is a sport that uses a plastic disc. A brand of plastic discs called Frisbees is popular in this continent. Discraft and other non-whammo discs are also popular in other places. But I'll stop joking about it. I'll say practice has begun this week for both junior high and then also for varsity girls and varsity boys teams. And if you are wondering, you wanted to sign up and you didn't know that happened, please email ultimate@greatriverschool.org for clarification. You can also go to our school website. Under the current families, there's an Ultimate page. You can link to current information. So you can find it there. I know there's been some murmurations almost when you see that crowd of birds that go in the same direction. I'm seeing that happen in the medias and social groups saying, did this happen? Is this happening? Where do I find the info? So ultimate@greatriverschool.org. Thank you, Holly, for chatting that out.
I heard for a second, I heard ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure it's full.
UL. Yeah, the ultimate.
Ultimate.
Yes, as some Norwegian friends of mine and German friends of mine. Ultimate. The ultimate@greatriverschool.org is one way to get that information.
Right.
And for folks who are wondering, wait a minute, you have in-person activities, but you're not doing in-person learning. There's a few things at play. One is the outdoorsness of sports and activities. The second is the complexity of offering public education for every student. And so if you got questions about that, though, I'm happy to answer them. Holly, I feel like there's one more question that might have come indirectly to us this past couple weeks.
Well, I did get a question about graduation today and this afternoon, and if graduation is happening in person, and how is it happening? What's happening?
So officially not yet determined. Unofficially, I will be after my campus visit tomorrow morning and then going to the meeting at McMurray. I'll be working in the afternoon really to verify a potential plan to have both options for the same kind of graduation we held last year, which is, I think, no matter what, we can do it that way, which was rewarding. It was unique. Mostly it involved vehicles. However, we do have, I think, a workable plan to hold an in-person ceremony outdoors on campus. And I think that there are ways that we can set that up to do it and even be weather accommodating. And so, so we're working on that, but I basically have shared too much. Hopefully that teaser has been worthwhile. But if you are, say, a family who is not a senior class family who wants to attend, likely your restriction will be that unless you're volunteering as an 11th year family or student to be part of the process of helping graduation happen, you'll watch it in a live stream that we'll be having, which I think will be rewarding. Our graduation ceremonies are one of the most impactful moments in my witnessing of the Great River School community. And I know they're a culmination for our seniors. So I look forward to working on that plan, though. We have 3 wonderful 11th year families working in volunteering, 3 11th year parents who are volunteering to organize. And we'll be getting more information out early next week, I think, to seniors and the whole community about that. But basically, what I do know is only seniors and their immediate beloveds will be possibly attending that unofficially in-person plan this year.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know that something's coming out on Wednesday. I'm sorry, on Thursday in the family newsletter, but it's also, you reflected it today in an email about what people can do if they want to help people who live in Brooklyn Center.
Yeah, so we have a family who lives in Brooklyn Park who's actively organizing. We also have a family in Brooklyn Center who's sent some information to me about organizing a drop-off. So we've got lots of people who are interested in helping. And I've also even heard from schools today in that area, both big public schools and charter schools, who are calling for materials and support and help. And so the email that we sent to all families today, you can check that for even a place you can drop things off on campus that are helpful, non-perishable food. I do believe I didn't put it in the letter, but I heard today some clothing items are welcome, and then also medical supplies and basically tape and things to adhere boards with, like nails and screws. However, you can also then find a link to a local news publication, the Sahan Journal, that shows you places you can bring things. So I know the high school in Brooklyn Center, there's a big blue barn at 6500 Humboldt. That is where, if you want to bring stuff or help, you can go there to drop stuff off. And
I do know that we have a box in the front lobby.
Yep.
If you want to help, but only go to the school, then that will be picked up frequently.
Regularly, yeah. And we had a couple of volunteers even to bring it out to Brooklyn Center.
Yeah.
So I'm also looking forward to our society, I think, working for its citizens and our expectations of justice. I'm trying to be just as direct as possible. That I'm well aware that the nationally and internationally televised trial for the murder of George Floyd is, I thought, would be the next pivoting point of civil unrest that we might face as a local society. But that it's happening now, I think, is an indicator that this may be a way where communities are being asked sometimes without their consent, to pull together and help each other out. And so, so yes, we have a box in the front lobby, and you can, if you're at school, you can bring things there too. And then I look forward to this being the last time we have this discussion in the Twin Cities for a while at least, but not the last time that we see, I think, peaceful protest, demonstration, calls for justice. And so I just could say a lot, but I'll take a deep breath. And I do think there was one last question, Holly,
Okay.
about is the Adolescent SRC open for everybody, and do I have to go for 5 days a week, and what are the restrictions? And so this is where it's open for everybody. Also, you can choose how many days a week or what your schedule is. And as more students arrive, there are more students who are participating in their online classes. And so they're in spaces doing their digital learning. And as more students are there, then doing their, say, independent work time in the same place, if they are in the shared same classes, yeah, I think there's more opportunities for it to feel and look more like a school might. And so if you want that kind of experience, please sign up and come for it. And frankly, just getting in the habit of coming back to our beautiful campus and filling those halls with loving voices, I think, is important. So we're doing mitigation techniques. They are proven. They have been successful so far, and there's no reason to think that they won't continue to be. We're wearing masks. We're staying socially distanced, following guidelines, and we're going outside often, especially as the weather warms up. So, okay, that's all of them. Holly, got anything else?
No, I was just feeling like a bobblehead, agreeing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everybody who showed up this evening. If you've got anything that we should be talking about, please send it to us at office@greatrivierschool.org. Holly and I both get that. Also, you can point out maybe somewhere. Oh, actually, I do have 2 questions from the week before spring break. I'll answer them as closers. But if you want to point out something we missed or somewhere we need to address something, please let us know. We'd like to. So I got a question before spring break that was specifically about the vaccination rate of our staff, which we had reported, I think, as being just above 63% most recently. I will report here verbally that we're now at least at 69% having 1 shot. And I believe in terms of 2 shots, I think we've confirmed over half our staff. However, we have not been using that as a decision point for several reasons. One is I've been previewing this, but we don't know over the next year if or how these vaccines will continue to be effective. We are just, frankly, as the best public health decision, pursuing them because we've had the opportunity for our staff to get them. We know that mitigation, like masking, distancing, good health practices, staying home when you feel sick, are required. Hand washing are even required for folks who have viruses. But we also know that those mitigation recommendations will change. And so a second question that I fielded that I think relates to this answer is, are you publishing all the changes in guidance through the whole year? Like about whether or not people who are vaccinated have to wear masks when they're in the same room as each other, or whether or not if you're alone in an office or a classroom at school, do you have to keep wearing your mask? Or like lots of little details. And then also, frankly, things like the CDC this week saying, turns out that washing surfaces is not an effective way to mitigate this virus. So it's an effective way to keep your area clean. But when the CDC says, don't put extra resources into wiping surfaces down, just wipe them down a normal amount to keep things clean and really pay attention to masks, mitigation, and airflow. That's a place, again, where we are adjusting to best practices, but we are struggling to find the capacity to continually republish all of the most updated guidance. And so just in transparency, there are some things that we don't have published. And so we do, however, say we're not revising all of our documents from the whole year to publish them, but we do have documents where we're updating policies or practices or expectations. And so that's where you can look for things. So back to finishing the question about vaccination rates, we are no longer going to publish how many folks at our school got vaccinated. We think now, especially that it's open to everybody, there are some privacy issues around employers asking for that, but I do see a future in which the state is probably going to ask for typical vaccinations for children once they are approved for this kind of disease, just like are asked for other diseases to enroll in school. And so heads up for families on that. But one of the reasons we're not publishing the vaccination rate also among staff is there was a criticism that came in about only 63 or 69% of your staff. That's a problem. Why? What hasn't been done to get 100% vaccination rate? And that's where I'll just identify that both as an employer, we can't require, force, or stick our noses into medical decisions that our staff make. But second, we are living in a time in a society where everyone is struggling to get things at 100%. And so I suspect that more than 70% of our staff are vaccinated, and that's okay that they're not sharing that. And we are proceeding to deliver the best educational models we can. And then I would also identify that teachers and families are not on opposite sides in these questions. Very specifically, folks who want distance learning to stay and folks who really want in-person are not on opposite sides. And so I just want to advocate for, as we as a community do our best to stay together through this time of polarized opinions and experiences, seeing differences as a place to be curious and still advocating for what you need is what I'm asking us to do. So if Holly and I are in a car, I'm thirsty, she has a glass of water, rather than getting angry at her, I might say, I need a glass of water too. Right. And because of the pandemic, we can't share the glass of water right now. And that's so frustrating. I know, right? And so, you know, Holly's not my enemy because she might have something I need, or I'm not Holly's because I might have a different opinion on things. And I think that is a difficult place to navigate right now. So
especially if it's not about water.
True. But even if it is.
Yeah.
And so in times, I would advocate for, in times where you're feeling particularly frustrated or not acknowledged, please speak up, because we're working our hardest to find solutions that allow this to work for everybody. And I know that not everybody's happy, and so that's okay. But taking care of this community, like I said at the opening of this, as an opportunity. This place is an opportunity every year. It's not, I don't take it for granted that it's going to happen. I don't take it for granted that it's going to turn out well like it has for the past 16 years. But I do take for expectation that we are going to have to work again every year and every day to keep this place an opportunity for students to have a time to advocate, to learn how to be in the world, to be peaceful with each other, even if they disagree about stuff, and then have tools to go out into the world and change it. And so that's something I think that continues to be rare and is going to require all of us to keep around. So with that, as a closer, Holly, thank you for being with me tonight.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, and with this recording again will be posted again tomorrow. We've answered questions about, I see a few more folks are logged in, so we've answered questions about vaccination, about in-person models, about some survey results. So if you didn't get your answer and you just want it in writing, feel free to email us. And I care about a lot of things, but particularly you, Holly, this school, and us trying to finish this year with as much success for students as possible. So
thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Holly. Bye.
See you next week. Be kind to each other.